was sitting quietly in the park while Yumi insisted on getting fresh air. Yumi sat close beside her, swinging her legs slightly. Yumi, are you okay? She asked, her voice soft with concern. Yes, Wine replied, forcing a gentle smile. I am fine. They talked about little things, school, silly memories, nothing important, completely unaware that something was about to change their lives forever. The sun slowly sank, giving way to the moon. Street lights flickered on as the sisters began walking back home. Their steps unhurried, their laughter faint. As they turned into the next alley, everything happened at once. Suddenly, rough hands grabbed them from behind. Wine froze in terror. Yumi was pulled away instantly, her frightened cry echoing only for a second before it was cut off. Leave us. Wine tried to shout, struggling with all her strength, tears spilling down her cheeks, but her voice came out muffled, swallowed by panic and fear. It was already too late. They were dragged away into the darkness, the alley falling silent once again as if nothing had happened at all. They shoved both of them into the van, roughly making them stumble against the cold metal floor. Before Ryan could even reach for Yumi, a rough hand forced a cloth over her face. The sharp, unfamiliar smell burned her senses as panic shot through her veins. Yumi. She tried to scream, but her voice came out muffled, swallowed by the fabric. Beside her, Yumi struggled violently, her small hands clawing at the air, her sobs breaking through in frightened gasps. Wine reached out blindly and managed to grab her sister's wrist, holding on as lightly as she could, as if letting go would mean losing her forever. Don't be scared, Wine whispered desperately, even as her own heart pounded against her ribs. I'm here. I'm not leaving you. The wine door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Darkness swallowed them whole. The engine roared to life and the van jerked forward, the motion throwing them back as the world outside disappeared. Wine's vision blurred, the fear mixing with the sting of helplessness. Her grip on Yumi tightened, her nails digging into her own palm to stay conscious. Somewhere deep inside, a terrible realization settled. Their lives were out to change. One of them crouched in front of them, his movements quick and practiced. Wine tried to pull Yumi closer, her body tensing in panic, but before she could react, a sharp sting pierced her arm. No, she tried to shout, but her voice barely formed. Another sting followed, this time on Yumi's arm. The girl cried out once, a small broken sound that shattered Wine's heart. What did you? Wine's words slurred as a sudden heaviness spread through her veins. Her limbs felt unbearably heavy, her strength draining far too fast. The world around her began to tilt, sounds stretching and blurring together. Yumi's grip loosened. Yuni, she whispered weakly. Wine forced herself to stay awake to fight it. She shook her head, tried to move, tried to scream, but her eyelids betrayed her. Darkness crept in from the edges of her vision, swallowing the van, the voices, the fear. Her last conscious thought was Yumi's name. Then everything went still, silence. Darkness claimed them both. The van lurched forward, its engine roaring as it picked up speed. Tires screeched against the asphalt. The city lights outside blurring into streaks of gold and white through the narrow cracks in the covered windows. Inside, everything was eerily still. Wine and Yumi lay slumped against the seats, unconscious, their breaths shallow but steady. The men exchanged brief glances, no words, no hesitation. This wasn't their first time doing something like this. Drive fast, one of them muttered. We can't risk being seen. The driver pressed harder on the accelerator, weaving through the streets with practiced ease, taking sharp turns, avoiding main roads. The noise of the city slowly faded, replaced by long empty stretches of road. Minutes blurred into each other. The van finally turned onto a desert road, street lights growing sparse, buildings giving way to silence somewhere far behind them. Life continued as usual, unaware that two lives had been just ripped away from it. Inside the speeding van, darkness remained unbroken, and with every passing second, they were getting farther away from home. One of the men pulled out his phone, his movements calm, almost routine. He glanced at the unconscious figures to make sure they hadn't stirred, then turned slightly away and dialed a number. The call connected almost instantly. Boss, he said quietly, eyes fixed on the dark road ahead. The mission is done. There was a brief pause on the other end. No complications, he added after a second. Both of them are secured. We are on our way. The man listened for a moment, then nodded to himself. Yes, we will reach the location soon. He cut the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. The van continued to race through the night, swallowing distance with every passing second. Inside, the hum of the engine was the only sound, steady and forgiving. Wine's head shifted slightly with the movement of the van, a faint crease forming between her brows, but she didn't wake. Humiliated, curled beside her, small and still, unaware of how far they already been taken. One of the men adjusted the rear view mirror, his expression unreadable. Make sure everything stays quiet till we reach, he said flatly. The driver nodded and pressed the accelerator again. Ahead of them the road stretched into the darkness, leading them closer to whatever fate awaited at the other end. The van finally slowed to a halt, its tire crunching softly over a long private driveway. Tall iron gates loomed ahead, sliding open silently to reveal a sprawling mansion bathed in dim golden light. The place looked unreal, vast, luxurious, goldly perfect, like it didn't belong to the same world they'd been taken from. As the engine shut off, the doors opened from the outside. A few women stepped forward, not guards, not roofmen, but maids, dressed neatly in mirror uniforms. Their expressions were blank, professional, if this was routine. Careful, one of the men ordered quietly. The maids nodded and gently lifted Juan and Yumi, supporting them from the other side. Their movements were practiced, firm enough to carry them, soft enough not to leave marks. Juan's head lolled against one maid's shoulder, her hair falling across her face, completely unaware of where she was being taken. They walked through the massive entrance doors, which closed behind them with a heavy thud. Inside, the mansion was breathtaking. Marble floors, high ceilings, chandeliers glowing faintly above, walls lined with expensive art. Every step echoed, making the silence feel even heavier. Yet, despite all the luxury, there was something unsettling about the place, something too controlled, too quiet. The maids carried them up a wide staircase and down a long corridor, stopping in front of a large door. This room, one of them said softly. The door opened, revealing a lavish bedroom, silk curtains, a king-sized bed, soft lighting, but the beauty felt hollow, almost suffocating. They laid Ryan gently on the bed and placed Yumi on a couch nearby, adjusting blankets over both of them as if tucking in guests rather than captives. Once done, the maids stepped back. No noise. One whispered more to herself than anyone else. The door closed slowly, locking with a quiet click. Left behind in the silence, surrounded by luxury that felt like a cage, they both lay unconscious. After some time, the silence of the room shifted. The door opened. The footsteps echoed softly against the marble floor, slow, unhurried, deliberate. A man entered, dressed in black, his posture rigid, eyes alert. He stepped aside immediately, lowering his head in silent respect. Then he walked in. The air itself seemed to change, clad in a perfectly tailored three-piece suit, every line sharp and precise. He moved with an authority that didn't need to be announced. His presence was heavy, commanding, cold, impossible to ignore. Power clung to him like a second skin. He didn't rush. His gaze swept the room once, unreadable, calculating. He stopped near the bed for a moment. He simply looked at Wine. Her pale face, her stillness, the quiet rise and the fall of her chest. Something flickered in his eyes, not softness, not yet, just recognition, and something deeper, darker. She's the one, he asked quietly. Yes, boss. The man behind him replied instantly, his short hardened slightly. And the girl? The younger one, as ordered. He nodded once, leave. The man hesitated for a half a second, then bowed and stepped out, closing the door behind him. The room fell silent again. He loosed his cufflinks slowly, eyes never leaving mine. His reflection stared back at him from the glass window, calm, controlled, ruthless. So, he murmured, voice low and steady, almost thoughtful. You finally walked into my world. Thank you so much for reading, and if you're someone new here, make sure to read my book on Wattpad. Thank you.